They turned and walked side by side slowly along the line of the river. Behind them the light grew in the east. As they walked they compared notes, talking lightly, in hobbit fashion, of the things that had happened since their capture. No listener would have guessed from their words that they had suffered cruelly, or been in dire peril, going without hope towards torment and death, or that even now, as they knew well, they had little chance of ever finding friend or safety again.
Welcome to the Wayward Wizards podcast. Today we are reading Book 3, Chapter 3 of Lord of the Rings, the Uruk-hai. My name is Zach.
I'm Logan.
I really love this chapter.
I think it's my favorite chapter so far, actually. I don't know what it is about it, but it's so propulsive and exciting and just out of the ordinary from what we've kind of gotten used to.
Yeah.
And so I just really enjoyed reading it last night.
It's harrowing, but it's also funny. And the hobbits' personalities really come out.
Yeah.
I guess we've heard Merry and Pippin banter up to this point, but this is when they really, I think, come into their own.
Yeah, I agree. I love how much we get from them, and I love that it's kind of from Pippin's perspective also.
Yeah, he's the star.
It really takes his perspective on things. And then Mary even comments on it at the end. It gets real meta at the end.
Yeah.
That Pippin's been sort of telling the story to Mary the whole chapter. It's really interesting construction. Yeah. I also really love that I put a big exclamation point near the beginning of the chapter because all of a sudden the orcs are talking to each other and they've got names and personalities and conflicts, and it really kind of takes you off guard because they've been this thing that's kind of this looming presence.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're right in the middle of hundreds of them.
Yeah.
By my count.
Regional dialects and names and you're totally right. Yeah. Merry and Pippin, there's this kind of running joke that they've been luggage up to this point.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, they really haven't contributed much. I mean, so let's just kind of break it down. So they agree to help Frodo, and they are we're here for you, whatever you got to do. But they really only imagine they're going to Rivendell. That's kind of their end destination and what they've committed to from the beginning. And then there's this question of all right, we got 9 slots for the Fellowship. Who's it going to be? And it's all right, we'll have Frodo, obviously. Sam, he has to go with Frodo. And then we got people from each of the kindreds. We got Gimli and Legolas are representing their people. And we got Boromir representing his people. Aragorn is thrown in there because he's super tracker. Gandalf is thrown in there because he's magical. But then there's 2 slots left, and they have to question all right, who are we going to send for the last 2 slots? And Merry and Pippin aren't really even considered at the beginning.
No.
They're not exactly the 2 pieces that you want in the Swiss Army knife. They're not the most useful. But Gandalf is basically their friendship is really important, and it might be more useful than if we send Glorfindel or some other really powerful elf or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the last couple chapters, the other members of the Fellowship are Elrond was against their coming. And we hear that same insecurity playing out between the 2 of them. They're kind of wow. Pippin at least is maybe Elrond was right. You know, I've not really been much use, and now here we are just being carted by these evil demons from hell across these desolate lands, and maybe we should have just stayed back home.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it even crosses his mind at one point that the idea that someone would even come to save them is kind of why would they come for us? Wouldn't they stay with Frodo?
Yeah, they've already gone off with Frodo, almost certainly. So why?
And so it's almost like their journey is over.
Yeah.
In a way, like you said, literally being carried on the backs of these orcs.
Hairy orcs, apparently.
Which would be a pretty terrible way to travel with your arms slung over like a backpack over the neck of an orc. Yeah, and the descriptions of the orcs, they're like hairy and disgusting and like just like smelly and gross.
Evil.
The description of what's his name? Grisnock?
You got Grishnak.
Grishnak.
And Ugluk.
Grishnak is more like a chimpanzee or something like that.
Yeah, Ugluk calls him an ape. And like the other, like Mordor orcs, he calls them apes.
Yeah. So there's some, they have these like long arms.
Yeah.
And it talked about how broad they are. Like they're not really, they're like low to the ground, sort of like squat and broad with these like long arms. I almost get kind of like a spider vibe too, in a way. That like the like hairiness or something about them is not like a nice like fur or something like that. It's like,
have you ever thought of
spines.
orcs as being hairy?
I guess not. No.
They're described as hairy like 3 times in this chapter, and I thought that was really interesting. Like a hairy ear and a hairy arm.
Yeah,
like a hairy ear. Ugh.
I know that I've seen like depictions of them in like fantasy art where they look more like chimpanzees or even like pigs, kind of. But in the Peter Jackson, they're kind of slimy,
reptilian.
And reptilian. But that's not really the description here. The description here is that they're kind of wiry or something like that, almost.
Yeah, they're called like wiry a lot. It's like they have this like incredible ability to do these feats of athleticism and strength. And yeah, I mean, the word goblin comes back a few times in this chapter as well. Like we had said before that the goblin really isn't used in Lord of the Rings, but it's popped up a few times, especially in this chapter. But yeah, I feel like Merry and Pippin really come to life in this chapter. They've been fleshed out characters from the beginning, and they've been interesting characters. But once we kind of hit off from the Council of Elrond, they don't really talk that much.
No, they're pretty quiet.
Because they're on the bottom of the totem pole, and I think they know that. We get a little bit of dialogue with them, like up in the trees in Lothlorien. Obviously, Pippin's antics in the Mines of Moria have incredible consequences, and so we've seen them. It's not like they've been like completely to the side, but it was kind of refreshing. I was like, oh yeah, I love these little guys.
Definitely, they have so much personality, both of them, and Pippin like has like too much personality, like that's what gets him into trouble most of the time, is that he's so I don't know, he's kind of immature,
He's like the youngest. He's the youngest of the group, and he's like barely an adult. But one thing that really struck me this reading is they're not idiots. They're not dumbasses. They're just cheerful, and they're, what's the word that you used to describe them in the past? Indefatigable?
Yeah, or irascible or something like that.
You can't keep them down for long. I mean, they've just been through probably the worst thing they'll ever go through their entire lives. And at the end of it, they were able just to kind of chatter with each other.
Yeah, it's just their nature, especially when you put like 2 hobbits together. They can't sort of help but talk about things in a hobbity way.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of that in Rivendell, where Frodo and Bilbo get to talk about, other things. It's not like they just talk about the most important things. They're sort of affable in a way about whatever their circumstance is. It's really, I kind of look up to that, I think.
Yeah.
That even when the worst thing that's ever happened to you happens, they're still like kind of
hello,
lighthearted. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, that was quite the experience.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I can't put my mouth in my pocket. It's like, all right. That's a weird way to put it, but yeah.
All their little phrases are so funny. It's so good.
So what do you think? You want to just kind of jump right into the text?
I think so. It's probably the way to do it. We begin with a dream.
Yeah. We haven't had a Pippin dream in a while.
No, it's been a long time.
Maybe the House of Tom Bombadil?
Yep, I think so.
It says Pippin lay in a dark and troubled dream. It seemed that he could hear his own small voice echoing in black tunnels, calling, Frodo, Frodo. But instead of Frodo, hundreds of hideous orc faces grinned at him out of the shadows. Hundreds of hideous arms grasped at him from every side. Where was Merry? And then he woke.
Yeah, being awake is no better than his dream, probably even worse.
Yeah. Merry's
And,
knocked out next to him.
Yeah, he's bound and Mary's bound. Mary has a rag across his brow. So he got hit over the head or something.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we get this kind of flashback to Pippin's perspective of what happened when they were abducted.
I thought it was really shocking to me that it says that, as they were facing down these orcs, the orcs didn't try to kill them. They tried to grab them. And then Merry and Pippin cut off several of their hands and arms.
Yeah.
Wow. Those are sharp little swords they got from the barrows.
Merry and he had drawn their swords, but the orcs did not wish to fight, and had tried only to lay hold of them, even when Merry had cut off several of their arms and hands. Good old Merry. So it seems like Merry's the one who was like,
Yeah, he jumped into action there. Good old Merry. Then, of course, we hear about Boromir.
It says his last memory of Boromir was leaning against a tree, plucking out an arrow, and then darkness fell suddenly. And he supposes he was knocked on the head, got knocked out cold.
Yeah.
And here's where we get this regret. So he says, I wish Gandalf had never persuaded Elrond to let us come. What good have I been? Just a nuisance, a passenger, a piece of luggage. And now I have been stolen, and just a piece of luggage for the orcs. I hope Strider or someone will come and claim us. But ought I hope for it? Won't that throw out all the plans? I wish I could get free. So he realizes, hey, if anybody comes to rescue us, that means that, the quest is done for. So,
things have gone really bad.
So just get that thought out of your head.
Yeah, then we get the introduction to the orcs.
Oh, terrible. And yellow fangs, hairy ears, they're just hideous.
But we get the conflict between the orcs
right away.
The Mordor orcs and the northern orcs really, don't trust Saruman. They don't really have any kind of loyalty towards Saruman at all.
No.
And that's when we get, this idea that they're able to hear, they're able to understand what the orcs say, because apparently the three different groups of orcs can't understand each other.
Yeah.
So orcs do have some kind of culture, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're clearly speaking the common speech because that's a way for them to all be able to understand each other. But it's also a clever plot device to allow Merry and Pippin to understand what they're saying. This is getting way into the future, but do you remember when Sam puts on the ring, he's able to understand the orc speech in Mordor?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So kind of the in-universe way that we're able to understand what the orcs are saying that there is that the ring kind of gives Sam understanding of the speech, the Mordor speak. But it seems like, this is I think it's a really clever way to kind of allow us to understand what they're saying as readers. But yeah, I mean, it's we have the Mordor orcs. We have orcs from the mines of Moria, it seems. They refer to the mines with a capital M, and they're called maggot dwellers and hole dwellers. And then we have the Uruk-hai, who are clearly able to run in the sunlight without any trouble, and they're bigger, and yeah, they have competing interests and goals. But they're all just horrible. They don't trust each other.
It says that the northern orcs at some point say that they are just here to get their revenge, I think it says.
Yeah. Do you think that might be in reference to what just happened in the mines?
Is that it? Revenge over what? You know what I mean? I'm not sure.
That's a really interesting question. I'm sure someone smarter than us will be able to answer that. If anybody knows, they can send us an email. There was a section in Lothlorien, or like when they're fleeing to Lothlorien, where one of the characters, maybe it was Aragorn, maybe it was Legolas, he says, orcs will travel at great distance to avenge a fallen leader.
Oh, so maybe the Balrog.
Or just, the fact that they were, attacked in the Mines of Moria and they didn't know why necessarily.
Yeah, I guess if they see it as their home, their whatever base.
So it seems like we have some orcs from Mordor. We have some orcs from the mines. I assume that's the Mines of Moria, but they're like mountain dwelling orcs that are, just kind of like drafted in. And like at one point, I think it's Ugluk says like, oh, they're only half trained. They're like, there's lots of language in here of like, it's like military language. It's like, we have the war and we have, they talk about spies and they talk about brigands and rebels. And there's like lots of like war speak that, it's hard for me not to hear Tolkien kind of making some sort of observation about the way that people talk in war and the way that it kind of it sounds ugly, but it sounds very modern. It sounds like something that you could hear on either side of an armed conflict. Like it's not just the Mordor people that talk like this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And they're all like threatening to report each other to higher ups. We get a little insight into at one point when they're trying to kind of negotiate their release with Grishnak. Grishnak's like, hey, you're about to go see the questioner with a capital Q. Yeah. And like, we'll get everything out of you there. And then you'll wish that you had more to tell by the time he's got everything out of you that he's going to get out of you. Yeah, that's chilling stuff.
Grishnak fears Sauron.
Yeah.
Right. That comes across, I think, pretty strongly.
And the Nazgul.
And the Nazgul. And the Uruk-hai don't have any respect for the Nazgul or for Sauron.
No, the White Hand is there.
But they should.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of like an extension of Saruman's ego or something like that,
Yeah.
That they don't have that fear.
Yeah.
And they don't exactly have fear of Saruman either, but they serve him in a way.
Well, there's almost like a reverence for Sauron. They're like, Sauron who gives us man flesh to eat.
Yeah, he's like their benefactor or something. But
he's like their father.
Yeah, but I don't really see that as the way that the other orcs relate to Sauron.
No, they're like scared to death.
It's like pure fear and domination.
Absolutely. They're his slaves, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you're talking about all this, they're wanted for the war with a capital W. They have something on them. We're not allowed to kill them. Some elvish plot. So we have like war, plot. It's like they'll both be questioned. Someone asks like, why don't we search them ourselves and find out? It might be something that we could use ourselves. And then someone responds, this is one of the Mordor people. That's a very interesting remark. Softer than the others, but more evil. I may have to report that. The prisoners are not to be searched or plundered. Those are my orders. So there's this sense of like, a quickness to turn on one another. There's like a culture of reporting your neighbor to the authorities. It's definitely got like, shades of Nazi Germany. It's got shades of...
Yeah, it's fascist.
It's got shades of like, the Soviet Union. Not that those places are the only places where, it's encouraged to report on your neighbors. I mean, I think we could...
Well, the idea of the eye is really interesting because it's like under some kind of the kind of domination that Sauron, right, meets out, and the idea of the eye ever watching that you're always divided against your neighbor, because of that watchfulness or something, the surveillance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like they they live, under this totalitarian surveillance state where they're very willing to try to get ahead or get one over on their neighbor or on their compatriots or whatever. And Ugluk, I think, is kind of constantly saying we have to stick together, we have to stick together, we have to keep going, we can't be divided.
Yeah.
But it's only if he can be in charge.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say, even as he's completely contemptuous of these smaller, weaker, dumber.
Yeah, as often as he says we have to stick together, he says, the Uruk will do it again, just like always. We do all the hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'll chop off a few more of your heads. And there's so, I mean, it's interesting, all these competing interests. It's hard to understate how much that is a theme of Lord of the Rings. The divided nature of the evil forces is what allows the good to succeed once they unify, once the good people decide to work together and stop being distrustful of people who are different. That's what finally allows them to win in the end, is to unite when evil is not capable of doing that.
And the unity of the forces that array themselves against Sauron, the unity bears difference, right? Everyone's not the same.
Exactly.
Within that coalition or whatever. But here, it doesn't bear difference. It says, where do you get your orders from? Do they come from Saruman, perhaps? Who does he think he is, setting up his own with his filthy white badges? And then he says, Saruman's a fool, and a dirty, treacherous fool, but the great eye is on him. And so, the idea that someone would bear a different badge on their shield or whatever on their helmet is not, it's untenable. There's more than one kind of unity in a way.
Yeah. That principle that we just talked about, I mean, that ultimately, this bears itself out right here. I mean, this conflict right away, these kind of competing interests, leads to, violence. And the violence leads to yellow-fanged orc falling over Pippin, and his rigor mortis sets in. And so Pippin's able to cut his cords around his hand because of it. Says he pushed the dead orc to one side, and then, hardly daring to breathe, he drew the knot of his wrist cord up and down against the blade of the knife. It was sharp, and the dead hand held it fast. The cord was cut. And then he pulls a cool magic trick. He just kind of makes a couple quick loops and puts him back over his wrist, and then Bob's your uncle.
So Merry and Pippin get basically turned into sacks.
Yeah, they're just thrown over
the backs of these orcs.
We haven't heard Merry speak at this point, have we? So, he's still knocked out cold, it seems like, through this whole encounter.
Then we get our first inkling that someone else is watching.
Yeah.
The scouts return, and there's a single horseman.
Yeah, they say, only a single horseman, and he made off westward. Don't worry about it, Ugluk.
Ugluk's like, you idiots. Soon they'll be on us.
The cursed horse breeders will hear of us by morning. Now we have to leg it double quick. So this is when they treat Pippin really roughly. It says that they cut the thongs around Pippin's legs and ankles because they need him to run. They can't carry him anymore because they have to move really quickly. So they pick him up by his hair and stand him up on his feet.
Awful. We had elf liquor before.
Now we have orc
and
liquor.
Orc liquor now, which sounds a little more horrible. It has, some kind of effect. It says it's a burning liquid, which, I mean, you imagine some kind of whiskey or something, right?
What was
I don't know.
What was the elf liquor called? Was it Miravor or something like that?
Yeah, and I think it was more like a cordial or something, kind of like a fruit liquor.
That's right, because I remember we looked up the word cordial.
This is probably made out of maggots or blood or
God knows what it is.
Something horrible.
It says Ugluk thrust a flask between his teeth and poured some burning liquid down his throat. He felt a hot, fierce glow flow through him. The pain in his legs and ankles vanished. He could stand. So it does have some sort of reviving effect. I don't think it's quite like a magic potion, but I think it's something a little more than just alcohol.
Yeah, I think so too. They also have some sort of poultice or something.
Salve.
Yeah, that they put on Merry, and it seems at least it helps him somehow.
Yeah.
That wound.
And we get another little wink from the author that lets us know everything's going to be okay. Did you catch this?
Yeah, that he has a scar long into for the rest of his life, right?
Yeah, it says, the gash in his forehead gave him no more trouble, but he bore a brown scar to the end of his days. So, yeah, unless we're talking about just a few more weeks, which I don't think we are, then that's a nice little like, hey, everybody, don't worry.
Yeah. He had time to heal and time to bear it to the end of his days. So they're not going to die in this chapter.
And Merry's first words here are just classic. "Hello, Pippin," he said. "So you've come on this little expedition too. Where do we get bed and breakfast?"
This little expedition. I love that so much.
And Ugluk hates it. He's like, "Now then, none of that. Hold your tongues. No talk to one another. Any trouble would be reported at the other end, and he'll know how to pay you. You'll get bed and breakfast all right, more than you can stomach."
Ugh. The very next detail is really cool, where they go down this. I think at the beginning of the chapter they say that they have to go down a stair.
Yeah,
it's not actually
it's
a
a
stair
stair.
though. It's like a switchback or something like that.
Mm.
But when they get to the bottom, they step on grass, and it like heartens the hobbits. Just having their feet on grass gives them hope.
Yeah, it says. I think it says something about the hobbits, that how connected they are to nature. It's like simple things.
Well, you know how they know that they're standing on grass.
Stop it.
It's because
I hate that this has become a running gag. I hate it. I hate that this.
It's because they're not wearing boots. They don't.
I know they're not wearing boots. I only said that they should have been wearing boots in the snow. That's all I said. That's all I said.
Well, if they were wearing boots in the snow, they took them off. They took them off at some point, so because they could feel the grass between their toes here, it really helps them.
Wow. Must be nice to be you and know everything, Logan. Golly.
All right, so they get their feet on grass, and all is well.
I love it. It says, at the bottom they stepped on to grass and their hearts rose.
Yeah, their hearts rose, and they're going to start running now. I feel, as Gimli has a hard time keeping up with Aragorn and Strider.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it's like for these guys to have to run with this pack of orcs, but I guess they keep up.
Something I just realized is that, they don't have their backpacks. They don't have their swords.
Mm-hmm.
So they're wearing their clothes, they're wearing their cloak, but they still have limbus in their pockets.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. You think that maybe the orc wouldn't touch it or something?
Well, they've been told not to be searched, so.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I guess I doubt the orcs would be able to stomach limbus, but I do think it's awesome that, like, they weren't planning on going off like this, so they just happened to have like limbus in their pockets. What does that tell us about Merry and Pippin?
Yeah, they want to have that little snack there just in case.
They are ready to go.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah, that's a nice detail.
So they're being driven, and they're running, and they're really only barely able to keep up. But here's Pippin's little stroke of genius. It said, a sudden thought leapt into Pippin's mind, and he acted on it at once. He swerved aside to the right and dived out of the reach of his clutching guard, headfirst into the mist. He landed sprawling on the grass. "Halt!" yelled Ugluk. There was a moment of turmoil and confusion. Some suddenly loomed up right in front of him. No hope of escape, thought Pippin, but there is hope that I have left some of my own marks unspoiled on the wet ground. And then he throws his brooch on the ground and says, "There I suppose it will lie until the end of time. I don't know why I did it. If the others have escaped, they're probably all gone with Frodo." So he does it, and he achieves his purpose. I mean, like we found, Strider finds these marks on the ground. He knows that it's Pippin because of the size of his footprint. He sees the elven brooch on the ground, and we get that great line, "Not idly do the leaves of Lorien fall." But as Pippin's doing it, he's thinking like, oh, that was a complete waste. Like nobody is coming after me.
But the action is taken out of hope, right?
Yeah.
Even though he has there's no evidence or confidence that this will come through. It's just an act of like pure hope. It's just like a faithful act. It's not a wish, right? I think if it's a wish, it's sad because it's a wish that's probably never going to come true. But that's why I think it's an act of faith, but I think hope is an act of faith, right? Like hope is like a action of faith. Mm-hmm. And so like, that's why I believe that it's motivated by hope, because like, even if Aragorn doesn't find the brooch or see his footprints, in some way, the action is not disappointed or can't be disappointed because it comes out of like it's like this act of like resistance, right? It's an act of there's something pure about it. And even when you're at the end of your rope, he still like has this agency, I guess, is the thing that always comes back to me for Pippin and Merry, that like they're such free agents in this. And even though, even though they're in this dire circumstance, they're still taking what actions they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the face of it.
They do what they can.
Yeah. And like Pippin, I think something about him being as young as he is, he kind of like doesn't know he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just hasn't been like knocked down enough times in life to know that sometimes he might just like stay there and sit.
Yeah.
He's going to get up every time,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool. And I love, as far as the storytelling goes, you get to like, you're like, oh yeah, like Aragorn does find it.
It's like, oh yeah. Here's the heads that were lopped off. Here's the footprints.
And it makes this chapter, I think part of the fun of this chapter is that you sort of like already kind of walked down the road in a way, except in the past. And like now we're like in the present. So like Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli have like walked this road.
Yeah. We saw the clues first.
And like told us the story.
Yeah.
And then we go back and then we find it actually happen.
Like from their perspective right away. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like cool thing like in time or something. It just like pulls you along. So like when you're reading this chapter, you're like, I just felt like I was just like on a water slide, like from the beginning to the end, it was just like such a propulsive thing. So yeah. Cool. Good job, Pippin.
Good job, Pippin. Don't give up.
Don't give up, buddy.
Don't give up.
Neither Pippin nor... This is sort of Bilbo, I think, right here. Neither Pippin nor Merry remembered much of the later part of the journey. It's like they couldn't tell me.
I love this description here. It says, neither Pippin nor Merry remembered much of the later part of the journey. Evil dreams and evil waking were blended into a long tunnel of misery, with hope growing ever fainter behind. They ran and they ran, striving to keep up the pace set by the orcs, licked every now and again by a cruel thong, cunningly handled. If they halted or stumbled, they were seized and dragged for some distance. Terrible.
Horrible. A long tunnel of misery.
Oh,
awful.
Yeah, terrible. And that's why their cheerfulness in the face of this is so heartening. Seeing them not have their will broken.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can't break these guys.
No.
They're given a little bit of food. Says that, Pippin's basically been thrown to the ground, and then an orc stooped over him and flung him some bread and a strip of raw dried flesh. He was famished, but not yet so famished as to eat flesh flung at him by an orc, the flesh of he dared not guess what creature.
Ugh.
What do you think they're eating?
It could be another orc, or it could be human beings,
flesh.
or
Ooh.
some kind of slug or something like that from, I don't know. I wouldn't eat it either.
The next couple pages are interesting because we get the kind of the continuation of the initial conflict that happens where Ugluk chops some heads off. But it seems like the Mordor orcs kind of like left the company for a while and somehow have like they've reconnected, like they followed behind and now they've kind of like reconverged. Is that how you read this?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that.
It says at that moment, Pippin saw why some of the troop had been pointing eastward. From that direction now there came hoarse cries, and there was Grishnak again, and at his back a couple score of others like him, long-armed, crooked-leg orcs. They had a red eye painted on their shields. Ugluk stepped forward to meet them. I think they left like back when their heads got all chopped off, like that initial
Yeah, that must be it. That must be it. It's confusing.
It's confused.
It's very clear. Yeah.
I think it's clear to Tolkien, but I don't think it's clear to us. Like, I think there was an initial fight that led them to splinter, but I'm unclear how they kept up. How did they gain enough ground to meet back up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's confusing. It's partially maybe it's confusing because Pippin and Merry aren't really like
they're not seeing the whole picture either.
To see the whole picture. So
this confrontation between Grishnak and Ugluk is really interesting. You know, he basically says like, "Hey, you came back, huh? Yeah, but if you're not trying to fight, you're in the wrong place because, you know, we're about to be like, you know, overtaken by these riders of Rohan." Grishnak's like, "You know, I left a fool, all right? I didn't leave anybody but a fool," when he's talking about Ugluk. He says, "But there were some stout fellows with him that are too good to lose. I knew you'd lead them into a mess, and that's why I've come back to help." "Splendid," said Ugluk. "The Whiteskins are coming. What happened to your precious Nazgul? Has he had another mount shot from under him?" All right, Legolas.
That's Legolas, yeah. I love that detail that like because the Uruk-hai haven't actually like had any dealings with the Nazgul,
Yeah.
they don't really respect him.
No.
And what they know about him is that, you know, Legolas or someone, right, has shot one of them down. And so
yeah, how tough can they be?
How bad could they be? But Grishnak can barely. He like can't even like say the word. In a way.
Yeah. He talks about the Nazgul the way that Gimli talks about Galadriel.
Yeah, that's true. You speak of what's deep beyond the reach of your muddy dreams. That's almost exactly what. That's what Gimli says to Éomer. You don't even know what you're talking about.
"Hey, I know that you're only saying this because you're dumb or whatever, so I'm not going to get like mad at you, but like, you know, that's my girlfriend." So that's basically what Grishnak says about the Nazgul. He's like,
he says that you ought to know that they're the apple of the great eye.
yeah,
Which is such a funny turn of phrase.
the apple of the great eye. Yeah.
You're the apple of my eye. The apple of the great eye.
Yeah, that's interesting. But he says of the winged Nazgul, he, Sauron, won't let them show themselves across the great river yet. Not too soon. They're for the war with a capital W and other purposes.
Other purposes.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. So they begin running again. And the Isengarders kind of like mock the little orcs, the little goblin guys. They're like, "Maggots, you're cooked. The Whiteskins will catch you and eat you. They're coming." Because they're like sun exhausted. They're not used to running in the sun like this.
Yeah.
That was an interesting jeer to say "you're cooked." Like, I wonder if that was like a common thing to say in, you know, 1940s England. I feel like we hear it all the time now. Like, "I'm so cooked."
Yeah,
so
I
cooked.
wonder. Yeah, it's interesting to find that here. You're cooked. The Whiteskins will catch you and eat you. It says the Isengarders run with a redoubled pace.
Yeah.
They're like super orcs.
I think it's interesting. We can like feel the presence of the Riders of Rohan like closing in on this orc company. Pippin's able to see them like visibly.
Yeah.
It says he saw that the riders away eastward were already level with the orcs, galloping over the plain. The sunset gilded their spears and helmets, and glinted in their pale flowing hair. They were hemming the orcs in, preventing them from scattering and driving them along the line of the river. So, I mean, they're within eyesight, hobbit eyesight. But I think it's interesting. We get this little bit of insecurity from Pippin as well, where he's like, who are these people? Like, and he's like, he wished that he had spent more time studying like the other people did in Rivendell, but he was too busy having fun. He's like,
well, I think we know that Merry did spend time studying maps.
Yeah, he actually he jokes
now.
with Pippin about it in just a couple pages. He's like, "Hey, while you were like twiddling your thumbs in Rivendell, I was actually studying a few maps." But this line here is interesting. It says, "He wished now that he had learned more in Rivendell and looked more at maps and things. But in those days, the plans for their journey seemed to be in more competent hands, and he had never reckoned with being cut off from Gandalf or from Strider or even from Frodo." So he kind of put off his homework. He's like, somebody else studied the reading for this week. I'll just look at their notes.
But you know who he remembered?
Who?
The greatest horse that ever has been or ever will be.
The greatest horse that ever horsed?
Shadowfax.
Is that all? Did he say that's all that he remembered about it?
Yeah, he says all that he could remember about Rohan was that Gandalf's horse, Shadowfax.
Yeah, he wouldn't shut the up about it. Actually, it was kind of weird. Gandalf was kind of horny for that horse. But anyway, better get back to paying attention to these orcs.
Gandalf talked about that horse kind of a lot. He never would shut up about it. He had like a picture that he carried in his pocket. That was really strange.
Hey, bro, you want to see a picture of my horse?
Check out his flanks.
Oh, man. He bore me speedily to my goal.
That's so good. Clip, clop, clip, clop.
He's like, I don't suppose that they've ever heard of hobbits down here. I suppose I ought to be glad that the beastly orcs look like being destroyed, but I'd rather be saved myself. The chances were that he and Merry would be killed together with their captors before even the men of Rohan were aware of them.
I think it becomes very clear very quickly here that these orcs are not going to get away from the riders.
No.
Although there are a lot more orcs than I remembered.
200 it says here. Definitely puts like Boromir's last stand in a different light, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. And I also think it made me wonder, the company was camped by the river and Frodo goes off by himself. And I think Frodo going off by himself is the only thing, it truly is the only thing that saved the quest.
Yeah, if they had stayed together actually and had like a last stand, they wouldn't have.
Yeah, so this really underlines it, that not only was Frodo doing, really the choice Frodo makes is not strategic. This choice he makes is
just
out of
fated.
Friendship. Well, it's fated, but I think his motivation is sort of, I can't lead all these people to their deaths.
Yeah.
And I have to do it on my own. And so, and of course Sam goes with him, but I do think this underlines that the fact that him making that choice is some kind of fate or, or part of the sort of total, what did Tolkien call it? Eucatastrophe. Not that his choice is a eucatastrophe, but the whole story is a eucatastrophe, right?
Yeah, kind of hinged on that one kind of fateful choice, yeah.
But he continues to make those fateful choices over and over. And out of his love for his companions is I think in part why he makes that choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, 200 orcs and the riders of Rohan on their heels.
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse for this band of orcs. They rest, but the riders of Rohan are kind of getting closer and closer, and then they're dismounting their horses and killing a few orcs, and then getting back on their horses and riding away. It's like
skirmishing.
Yeah. It says a sudden outcry of the east side of the knoll showed that something was wrong. It seemed that some of the men had ridden in close, slipped off their horses, crawled to the edge of the camp, and killed several orcs, and then faded away again. So they're almost like ninjas. You know, they're like coming in the dark and just taking out a few at a time.
Ugluk says, these whiteskins have better night eyes than most men, from all I've heard. But then it says their horses are sort of like magical. They can see the night breeze, or so it's said. I guess because they're all related to Shadowfax in some way, right? Like they're like magical horses.
I think so.
Which maybe saves Pippin and Merry from being stepped on later. You know, the horse jumps over them.
Kind of knows. Yeah. Did you notice the use of the word gimlet?
No. What is a gimlet?
So, Ugluk is kind of like, he's been really derisive against the, little goblin guys, but he does like recognize that they have better eyesight than he does in the dark.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
He goes, there's only one thing these maggots can do. They can see like gimlets in the dark. So I looked up what a gimlet is. I'd only ever heard of gimlet as like a drink, like an alcoholic drink.
Me too.
But it's like a long metal rod with a kind of oval shaped handle at the end. And it has a screw tip. It's maybe about 6 inches long, thin rod with an oval handle and a sharp screwed tip. And it was used to screw holes into wood. So it's like their eyes are like able to penetrate darkness. It's like a penetrating tool. Looks almost like a corkscrew. Like a corkscrew at the end of an ice pick, kind of. So I thought it was an interesting use of the word gimlet.
A gimlet.
They can see like gimlets in the dark. So they have like penetrative eyes in the dark. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So Merry and Pippin see the writing on the wall. They're like, okay, these guys are a mess. They're surrounded. This is not going to last much longer. So Merry and Pippin get into like a real, they've negotiated before. They've probably negotiated a few land sales. Merry and Pippin have certainly negotiated prices for like barrels of tobacco or whatever. And they're like,
sure.
my good sirs, let's see if there's something that we can negotiate between the two of us. Is there not something that we can figure out together? People of high mind, such as ourselves, Merry, Pippin, and the great Grishnok, could we not come to some sort of agreement?
Grishnok. And Grishnok is that kind of guy. I mean, I think that they read his character well.
He's slimy. He's climbing.
Ugluk is not going to negotiate. He has orders and he's going to follow them.
Yeah.
But Grishnok,
he's already kind of like left his post once. So
yeah, he has to be a little more subtle.
So Grishnok, he comes up to them and it says that he starts like kind of like feeling around them. Like the word grope is used a lot, which is gross. But his fingers are just kind of groping around, and he's like saying terrible little things to them. He says, little people should not meddle in affairs that are too big for them. As though he's like, Sauron or something.
One of the big people. Right.
As if he's one of the big people. And Pippin has this like flash of genius where he's like, oh, I think Grishnok actually knows about the ring. And so he starts to kind of play Grishnok like a fiddle. He goes, I don't think that you'll find it that way. It isn't easy to find. And Grishnok's like, find it? What do you mean? What are you talking about? And then Pippin does a Gollum impression. Gollum? Nothing, my precious, he added. So does Pippin think that Grishnok has like heard about Gollum?
Yeah, that's the play. That he knows something about Gollum. And I think Grishnok does know a lot. I mean, the back and forth with Ugluk, Ugluk says, you seem to know more than you should, or something like that.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, look, like Ugluk doesn't really understand like the power of Sauron.
Right.
And so I think maybe he like has heard rumors. I think this kind of shows that the tendency of the Mordor orcs is to be like loose-lipped about secrets, like important war secrets. Like, Sauron doesn't let his right name be used, but, people in the lower ranks know way more than they should about this, weapon and this thing that he's trying to get. And if he knows like how how Gollum speaks, that shows the dismay that's like all the way down. It's like, all right, there was this guy, he was a weird little guy, and he talked like this, and he called it his precious. Like he has like some knowledge here.
Yeah, and sure enough, he does know. He says, "Oh, that's what he means, is it? Oh, very dangerous, my little ones." And Merry picks right up on it.
Yeah, Mary's like, all right, yeah, yeah.
And Merry and Pippin know that Grishnak knows that the thing is magical. And so they're able to kind of play on that, and they say, it's actually not that easy to find.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just find it in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they're going to try to negotiate on, is like, well, we'll help you find it if you help us first. Or
Yeah, and Mary's basically like, do you want it or not? And what would you give for it? It's like, Mary's like, here, good sir, let me get my pen and pad. Let's begin to write down some terms.
Right.
But, they're like, essentially like, untie our legs or we'll do nothing and not say anything. And that's when we get Grishnak's like real evil coming out. It says, my dear tender little fools, everything you have and everything you know will be got out of you in due time. Everything. You'll wish that there was more that you could tell to satisfy the questioner, the capital Q. Indeed you will, quite soon. So I think it's, maybe that's why this guy knows all the things that he knows, because he's seen people being interrogated by the questioner. Which, do we think the questioner is Sauron himself?
Yeah, I think so.
That's why it's capitalized.
Yeah, I think Sauron himself tortured Gollum.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that it seems like the kind of thing that Sauron would revel in. Torturing somebody.
Yeah, he would enjoy that.
And Merry plays into the divide between the orcs and the orcs.
Yeah.
And he mentions Saruman, and Grishnak really can't stand that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, listen, Grishnak,
Yeah,
we're not going to Mordor.
Right, exactly. You're not in charge.
We're going to Isengard, bro.
Right.
Like, if you think that we're going to Mordor, you're out of your mind. Like, clearly we're going to Isengard first. So he's like, Sauron will take all that he can find first. If you want anything for yourself, now's the time to go for it. Like, now's the time to make a deal.
Well, eventually they basically convince him, these guys have got it.
Yeah.
But I need to get away from the rest of the orcs, from Ugluk,
right.
Certainly from Uruk.
Yeah, it's like Ugluk's going to be back any second, essentially. And he asks, have you got it, either of you? Like, He's like, hey, have you got it? And Pippin just says, Gollum. And Merry says, untie our legs. Yeah. And he's like, untie your legs. I'll untie every string of your body a little.
Oh, God, they're so awful.
This is something that I didn't notice until this reading. Never knew that the word armpit was in Lord of the Rings.
Where's that?
But here it is. It says, suddenly he seized them. Oh. The strength of his long arms and shoulders was terrifying. He tucked them one under each armpit and crushed them fiercely to his sides.
Yep, there it is.
So Grishnak has them like, one in each arm. And that's when, the Rohirrim really ride to the rescue here. It says, an arrow came whistling out of the gloom. It was aimed with skill or guided by fate, and it pierced Grishnak's right hand. And he dropped his sword and he shrieks, and then he gets like run through by a spear, and that's the last of him. And here's where you get the bit that you mentioned earlier about the horses of the Rohirrim somehow are like able to see the hobbits, and they're like, oh sorry, little guys, you're not orcs.
Yeah, even in their cloaks.
It says the horse lifted and sprang lightly over them, but its rider did not see them, lying covered in their elven cloaks, too crushed for the moment and too afraid to move.
Maybe they just get lucky, But I like that detail that the horses can see the wind.
And this is really where their like just indomitable spirit like comes through. They're laying there and everything is just like this battle is unfolding around them, and Merry says, now If only we had our legs and hands free, we might get away. But I can't touch the knots, and I can't bite them. No need to try, said Pippin. I was going to tell you, I've managed to free my hands. These loops are only left for show. You better have a bite of limbus first.
Yeah, let's eat a little something here before we, get away.
It's the most hobbish thing in the world. It's like a battle is unfolding. They're like, hey, we got to get out of here. But first, a little bit of limbus.
That's so good.
And I love the description. It says, the taste brought back to them memory of fair faces and laughter and wholesome food and quiet days now far away. And then Pippin gets Grishnak's sword, and it says that he quickly cut their bonds with them.
Yeah, so they get the bonds off, and I don't know who says this, Pippin? Now for it, he said. When we've warmed up a bit, perhaps we'll be able to stand again and walk. But in any case, we'd better start by crawling.
Yeah.
They crawled.
Yeah.
I love that. It's just 2 words and a period. They crawled.
Which is so rare in Tolkien. He rarely just gives you a really quick, short sentence like that.
It really hits. And crawling is miserable too, Yeah. That they're crawling through the dark. And they're trying to avoid, they have to kind of avoid everybody. They're also trying to avoid the riders because, in the dark, can you
they
really
don't want
tell?
to be friendly fire here.
Right. Can you tell an orc from a hobbit? Probably not.
If they even know what hobbits are, which rightly, I think we find out later that they had no idea what a hobbit was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the bit where we began with, which is, them talking lightly in hobbit fashion, comparing notes about their experience thus far. And it says, no listener would have guessed from their words that they had suffered cruelly and been in dire peril, going without hope towards torment and death, or that even now, as they knew well, they had little chance of ever finding friend or safety again.
And I love this next part where Merry's kind of taking stock.
Yeah.
You seem to have been doing well, Master Took, said Merry.
Hey, good job. I'm surprised.
You will get almost a chapter, the chapter we just read, in old Bilbo's book.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great.
This is where Merry kind of takes the piss out of him a little bit. He goes, I don't suppose you have much notion where we are, but I spent my time in Rivendell rather better. We are walking west along the Entwash. The butt end of the Misty Mountains is in front in Fangorn Forest. So, Merry is smart. And this is going back all the way to chapter 1, which feels like, or book 1, which feels like, years ago now. Merry knows the lay of the land. He's like, oh, hey, just over this area, there's, if we keep going this way, then we're getting into the Withy Windle, so we want to avoid that. That ridge over there is where we can get down into Bree. Mm-hmm. So he was the most knowledgeable of the 4 hobbits. And here he is too. He's he knows exactly where they are. If I was dropped in this place, I would have no idea where I was.
Right.
He's smart and he's intelligent. He's capable. And we see
that
here.
It's a really subtle character detail for a pretty minor character.
Yeah.
To have that track,
mm-hmm.
all the way from the Shire to here.
Merry's good with maps.
Yeah, he likes maps.
Yeah.
And I was Tolkien a map guy. Did he like a map? He sort of imagined he just liked maps,
I mean, famously, the maps in Lord of the Rings are, some of the best.
They're all drawn by him, right? So,
well, his son, I think, he drew maps,
right.
And then Christopher did the original maps for the books when they were published.
Right.
But the verisimilitude comes from the fact that these feel like real places, because in Tolkien's mind they were. I want to read this sentence about the Old Forest, kind of coming to the end of our time here, but I thought this is a really beautiful piece of prose. Merry leads the way under the huge branches of the trees. It says, old beyond guessing they seemed. Great trailing beards of lichen hung from them, blowing and swaying in the breeze. Out of the shadows the hobbits peeped, gazing back down the slope. Little furtive figures that in the dim light looked like elf children in the deeps of time, peering out of the wild wood in wonder at their first dawn.
I love furtive figures peering out of the wild wood in wonder.
That might be my favorite sentence in this entire book.
Beautiful.
And I never noticed it until, how many dozens of times have I read this? It almost like brings me to tears, and I don't know why. There's just something so beautiful about that.
It's really beautiful. Yeah. It's like a vision of Eden or something. I'm glad that you had us read that one. I also love that he, refers to the lichen trailing from the
As beards.
trees as beards, because we're about to get Treebeard in the next chapter.
Yeah, we're about to get a bearded tree.
Yeah, so he kind of winks at us on that one too, I think.
He also takes time to give Ugluk, who, I hate all these orcs, but Ugluk is the most likable of those terrible people.
He kind of is. Why is that?
He's just trying to do his job, all right? He's just trying to do his job.
He's like, hey,
he's surrounded by idiots.
I'm just trying to get from the mouth of Ralros to Isengard.
All right. I got these maggot hole.
Do you think you're better than me?
Hey, buddy.
Grishnak? Hey.
Grishnak? Snagga, you think you're better than me, huh? Huh? Snagga? I know your mother, Snagga.
You think you're... Yeah, he gets his last moment here. I think he was owed this final moment being cut down by Éomer.
I think that Tolkien had a little bit of a soft spot for Ugluk. I think Tolkien had the experience of having to be a bureaucratic leader of people who were not nearly as capable as him. And
exactly.
I think we can all relate to we've all been Ugluk.
I like that we get this detail that Éomer gets off his horse
and dismounts and faces one to one.
Yeah, man to man, man to orc.
So it was. They did not see the last stand when Ugluk was overtaken and brought to bay at the very edge of Fangorn. There he was slain at last by Éomer, the third marshal of the Mark, who dismounted and fought him sword to sword. Then when they had laid their fallen comrades in a mound and had sung their praises, the riders made a great fire and scattered the ashes of their enemies.
So ended the raid, and no news of it came ever back either to Mordor or to Isengard. But the smoke of the burning rose high to heaven and was seen by many watchful eyes.
Yeah.
The gods are watching over events on Middle-earth.
Come on. I think it's even the many spies of Isengard and the many spies of Mordor. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was like a some kind of sacrificial smoke. But
certainly the eyes of the Valar are upon Middle-earth right now. But I think it's probably talking about those birds.
It says the smoke rose high to heaven.
To heaven, yeah.
That's what made me think who is watching? I mean, yeah, I guess it could be the birds. But we're told the news never came back to Mordor or Isengard.
No one survived. But yeah, they saw that smoke, and so they knew it didn't go well.
Something happened.
Mordor knows that Sauron failed, and Sauron knows that Sauron failed, and that Mordor is not happy. And so I think that's what that's about.
Well, thank you for reading along with us. You can join us next week for Book 3, Chapter 4 of The Two Towers, entitled Treebeard. If you want to help us out, you can share the podcast with the Lord of the Rings fan in your life. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and a review. That helps the podcast out. And of course, you can visit us at waywardwizards.com for more info.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.